Hello my friends, I'm back from Kiev, back from Ukraine. I was there for a week and we did some mind-blowingly amazing stuff. We met with wounded in the hospital, we gave away cars to the Ukrainian army, we were trained at the base of the 3rd Assault Brigade in Kiev, we survived 4 air raids, and now I'm gonna show you how I met Brandon Mitchell. Brandon was driving by delivering night visions to territorial defense and we met up and made a video. We have a horse here. It's right there. If you cannot spot it, you must be blind. It might be an FSB operator. So Brandon is fundraising for these night visions, and territorial defense in Ukraine doesn't get anything. So he wants to get these night visions to them. So we met up, made a video, and I'm trying to help him to get more night visions. But we gotta see how the horse looks with this. It's thermal vision. How it looks with these thermal visions.
Thermal vision. We're gonna see how hot is the horse. Oh, a red glowing
hot horse.
I like my horses that hot, yes. Can you change the
Yeah.
Okay, that's a where is it?
Get it right.
That's a white
Boom,
horse.
a white horse.
Red hot function.
Okay, I'm wasting your time, I know, I'm sorry, but this is, I think it's funny. But more importantly, I was invited by the 3rd Assault Brigade media team to join them to the recruit center and training center of the 3rd Assault Brigade in Kiev. I was making a podcast in between of different groups training medical, training assault maneuvers. And then this happened. Russian missiles inbound, I'm sitting here with the guy, cameras are rolling, everybody's running to the shelters. Russian bombers were in the air. The shelters were full, so we ran into the trenches. They have trenches there. My friends, my full video will come out in about 2 weeks, so if you see me being in Ukraine in the thumbnail, just click on the video and watch it, because they get usually less views, so help me out with this. New Year's was in Crimea. Well, it looked like it was New Year's because there was fireworks everywhere. This is Sevastopol. Sorry about the quality of the map. A little bit east and to the north. There is Verkno-Sadove, where the second most important command post of the entire Russian Black Sea Fleet is stationed. Now, the Ukrainian intelligence service let us know. They reported that they sent some presents there in the form of storm shadows and some other missiles, some other explosives. They made sure that the Russian Black Sea commanders were present before they sent out the missiles. I'll read you the timeline. There's so many explosions, there's a timeline for them in Crimea. 20 minutes past noon, Russians are setting up smoke screens near the oil harbor of Sevastopol because they know immediate attacks from the Ukrainians are coming. 35 minutes, so 15 minutes later past noon, 4 Ka-52 alligators rose up and started patrolling around the port and started shooting down Ukrainian drones. 45 minutes past noon, so 30 minutes later, explosions started happening around the area. Previously, Ukraine has launched Storm Shadow missiles. And 1:05 noon, Ukrainian Storm Shadow missiles finally hit the Black Sea command point of Verkno-Sadove. This is big, not just any point. The command point, the physical command structure house building where all of the commanders of the Russian Black Sea Fleet were physically present at the time of this attack. Let's look into it because this is insane. In this video you can see the smoke coming up from the command post. It was hit precisely. The SP reported that it was 100% accuracy, it was destroyed. We don't yet know the ranks of the guys in there, but they were commanders, so probably very high ranks plus very expensive equipment, because it was the command point. The entire Black Sea Fleet was commanded from this physical location. Now it's wiped from the earth. Feel like immediately I go to Ukraine, Zelensky and Budanov are getting together. It's like, okay, Artur is away. Send everything you have. Send it all. Come on, we gotta take Sevastopol. So much was happening when I was away and I couldn't report on it. So I'm glad I'm back. I'm glad I get to do this again.
Ракеты пошли.
But now, my friends, we go to Moscow, Russia. I know you want to go there. Let's zoom in. A little bit northeast from Moscow is an airfield where actually the presidential aircraft are stationed. The Doomsday aircraft, as they call it. It also holds military choppers and military bombers. Because it's close to Moscow, the air defense is supposed to be extremely good and efficient. Well, yeah, air defense is good and efficient against aerial attacks, but against saboteur attacks, they're kind of hopeless, they're kind of defenseless, and this is exactly what happened. Ukrainian SPU reported that Ukrainian controlled or affected saboteurs on the vicinity of Moscow penetrated into the area of this airport, Chkalovsky Airport, and they blew up, physically blew up 3 aircraft. 2 planes and 1 helicopter. They just planted explosives on the aircraft and boom, fireworks. Next to Moscow, next to the securest city, you know, in the brackets, in Russia, saboteurs just go in and blow stuff up and go back out. I just want to zoom in to get the idea of how juicy of a target this place is. I've made the steak analysis. If this was a steak, it would be the perfect crust, crispy, brown looking, but medium rare inside, juicy, you squeeze it, the juice comes. This is this airport. Filled with military aircraft, also civilian ones, plus the presidential aircraft. Now this is a satellite photo, and with these dots and circles we can see where the explosives were planted. These are 2 Antonov 148 stationed right here, explosive well planted right in the middle of the plane. Beep, 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 poof, kaboom, it's gone. They are very expensive. And the Illusion 20 right here also destroyed. These 2 Antonov 148s, they belong to 354th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, meaning they belong to the Airborne Forces or the VDV Desantnik Forces, one of the most trained elite Russian forces, which means they have 2 aircraft less to do their whatever they do with. Now, other than the physical destruction of these insanely expensive planes that Russia cannot produce right now, the more important effect is psychological. This airfield is very close to Moscow. It is one of the closest airports outside of Moscow to Moscow, and also presidential airplane was stationed in this airfield, meaning this sends fear directly into Putin's mind, I think, because he personally will be walking on this airfield to go into his personal aircraft. And right next to it, some Antonovs were blown up by people who just went there and physically planted the explosives. This is an incredibly scary thought. And it also illustrates how this war is not in Ukraine, not on the borderlands of Russia, but in Moscow, right now as we speak. One of the biggest things that happened when I was in Kiev, and I feel so sorry that I couldn't report on it, but I'll do it anyway, because now a few days have passed and we have got the hindsight analysis of the battle. It's the Battle of Klishivka. See, Klishivka, the settlement fought over for almost 8 months, 6 to 8 months, is now liberated by the armed forces of Ukraine. The Battle of Klishivka, through Russian eyes, the Russian military blogger Kots writes this. Ukrainians heavily used cluster munitions and they were really bold using them. So what happened was they non-stop fired cluster munitions on Russian positions, infantry fighting positions, forest belts, dugouts. Only when Ukrainian troops physically were 50 to 100 meters from that very same dugout, they stopped firing. So it's a huge risk with cluster munitions because they spread out and you could hit, you know, blue on blue fire. The Ukrainians have perfected this tactic. Shoot, 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 and they stop and infantry immediately swarms the trench line, eliminates the enemy and liberates the position. Now I talked to several of the fighters from the 3rd Assault Brigade which operates in the area, and they confirmed yes, they do use this tactic. Yes, it's incredibly risky because of the possibility of blue on blue fire. Spread it out, cluster munitions could hit the first troops that jump into the trench lines, plus there are duds in the trenches, the cluster munitions that did not explode on impact. But this tactic has proven to be very effective on the Russians. Second factor the Russians complained about in this battle was the incredibly effective Ukrainian counter-battery fire. Russians fire onto Ukrainian approaching troops. Ukrainian counter-battery artillery radars immediately pale out the Russian artillery positions, and since they are more precise, more effective, they fire fewer shots and they hit more targets. They destroy more Russian artillery, and boom, you have silenced the Russian artillery and Ukrainian infantry is in the trenches. Another thing Kots was complaining about was the Ukrainian ability to do incredibly fast build fortifications. Now, they took a position, next day Russians counterattack. This always happens. But for the Russian surprise, Ukrainians have built cement fortified positions within one night. Cement or concrete, which has a lot more defensive capability than dirt. And this really demoralized Russians because they don't have such motivation or equipment to do this. You know it's your position, you know you're gonna counterattack tomorrow, you know it in and out, and suddenly there's this new bunker there built throughout the night. How is this possible? Well, that is the Ukrainian resolve. That's their capability. And the final thing is, which I'm also very much connected that Kots complained about, is the night vision devices. So Ukrainians here have more night vision devices than the Russians do. And if your unit has no more night vision devices, it's very simple and robust. You mostly attack at night because the enemy cannot see you And if at night the enemy cannot see you, they're blind, it's a turkey shoot. The trip before the last trip to Ukraine, I delivered 35 night vision devices that you guys donated, worth 60,000 USD. The Ukrainian troops that got these night vision devices, they almost started crying. This is how important they are, because they are truly a force multiplier. It's not that you're 2 times more powerful, it's that you're multiple times more powerful. Because if the enemy sees pitch black and you see it's like the daylight, there's no comparison. And that's what Koit says. The Ukrainians come at night and the Russian troops are totally helpless. They have to pull back. And that's what they do. He also complains that the night visions that the Russian troops did have lacked the batteries. Believe it or not, such a simple thing as batteries for the night vision devices, since there are no stores open close to the front line and the batteries are a very necessary commodity, they are bought out from every store, there is a huge deficit of batteries on both sides. Simple, 2 AA batteries. Now, my friends, we'll go to the southern front, and as you can see on the map, also Ukrainian forces have penetrated very effectively and slowly through the Surovikin line, even further against the Russian second defensive line. Verbova is not liberated yet, but Ukrainians are consolidating their gains here, saving their manpower. That is the most important word, saving. Because if they would push with everything they have, they could have incredible results with huge losses. That's the main point also. Ukrainians cannot allow huge losses, because if they find any kind of weakness through the Russian lines, they will need to have the potential manpower equipment to push and use this weakness. If they have used up all their manpower and potential, doesn't matter if they cannot exploit it. So Ukraine needs to make gains while saving their equipment and manpower. And this is incredibly difficult. I have talked about the Russian losses, right? And mostly I every time talk about the huge artillery losses, and they mostly come from the southern front, where Ukrainian artillery is really hunting for them, and the logistics also. Now in Klishivka I mentioned the very effective Ukrainian counter-battery artillery, but this eastern front here usually has Russian artillery superiority. Only in Klishivka Ukrainians were able to manage it. But in the southern front, Ukrainians have the artillery superiority. Why is that? We'll take the example of the 47th Brigade, which liberated Robotyne and is pushing south to Novoprokopivka. They are using the self-propelled howitzers M109 Paladin. And the tactic they use is also a huge headache for the Russians, because the Russians cannot hit them back. What Ukrainians use is Paladin reaches a location, immediately sets the coordinates, shoots 2 shots, and since it's a western piece, 2 shots are enough. They're precise and they're effective. They hit the target and they immediately leave. So this Paladin is never longer in one certain area than 5 to 10 minutes. Russian counter-battery fire, first of all, is slower. It takes more than that. And second of all, it misses a lot. But the Paladin does not miss. So with these 2 fast shots, they destroy Russian artillery and they leave the area. Russians cannot do much about it. By the time Russian artillery hits the spot where the Paladin was, it's gone. It hits just the field. And the Russian artillery will be destroyed by other Ukrainian artillery somewhere else that paled out their locations. The issue is that Russians have so many artillery pieces that they just feed them into this meat grinder. A D-30 will be destroyed, 1,000 are waiting in line to get it replaced. My friends, the next bit of news talks about Ukrainian kamikaze drones, and this is what I went to do in Ukraine actually. I'm starting a new fundraiser for Ukrainian Special Forces, the most effective Ukrainian Special Forces, which I cannot name unfortunately. I will fundraise for their kamikaze drones, because I looked at the statistics of every Ukrainian unit's kamikaze drones. The effectiveness per 1 drone per kill ratio is usually 5 to 10%. This specific unit I'm going to fundraise for has up to 50% kill ratio with kamikaze drones. This is why I want to put your money into good use by picking up the best unit with the best training that has the highest kill ratio with the kamikaze drones. They showed us the drones. This is me trying to drive it. Incredibly difficult. You have no idea how hard to drive these drones is. They stopped me because I almost crashed the drone. So if they have the kill ratio of 50%, you can know these guys are trained. All they do is train. Here is the drone operator of these special forces driving the drone, and he was so good. He was flipping the drone, doing these tricks. I was mind blown. And he told us that yes, this training takes a lot of time. And these guys, all they do, that's their life. They have dedicated their life doing this. This is why I want to give these drones to them. So if the video comes out, you have the possibility to buy these kamikaze drones to the most effective Russian Special Forces unit. Kamikaze drone operators. I don't know if you can see the drone, it's right here, it's quite small and it can carry 1.5 kilograms of explosives, and this drone is designed to take out soft targets and immobilize tanks. Not destroy them, but immobilize them. That's enough to destroy them later. What these guys were telling us is very weird. Listen to this. There is a shortage of big flat screens on the front lines because flat screens break quite a lot, and since they have these kamikaze drones, sometimes 10 of them are in the air and they need command points, they need to monitor all of them, all of the footage to synchronize the information to the troops on the front line. So they need huge screens which have like 20 different drone footage on it, and many different people are watching it, analyzing different drone pictures and talking to each other all the time to synchronize the information. It is an insanely crazy like spider web of information, and they are lacking flat screens. Now I let some other fundraiser help them with the flat screens. I'm gonna focus on the drones. It's a weird thing that nobody talks about. Simple flat screens on the front lines. It's a necessity. My friends, I went to watch the Barbie movie about a month ago. I loved it. It was really great. I like it. In Russia, that movie is forbidden because it doesn't go with the goals for Russian youth that Putin has set. In his eyes, it's like gay propaganda or like feminism propaganda. Whatever Putin thinks the Barbie movie is, it's forbidden in Russia. But Russians love the Western culture. I'm not kidding you. In the Soviet times also, the West was the evil. Now the West is the evil. But why then are every Russian trying to get the Barbie movie pirated? Why do they want to see it? It was the same in the Soviet times. Western stuff was like heavenly. Western music, Western movies were, if you had any copy of them, you could make money with it. You could sell it. Everybody wanted to buy. And it's the same in Russia right now. Barbie movie made 120 million rubles in cinemas in Russia, and it was the pirated version because officially they cannot buy it in because Putin doesn't allow it. So they steal it from the West and they show it in their cinemas. That is about $1.2 million with the weekend. Not big money in the West, but huge money in Russia for a pirated movie. That shows that everything that you forbid is becoming more tasty for people. They want more of it. It's forbidden fruit. I want to see what they really do in that pink Barbie movie. And for the defense of the Russians, it is a good movie. If it was forbidden, I would still watch it. When I was away, so much happened, and one of the big topics I've not touched about yet is Kadyrov. After Prigozhin, Kadyrov has the biggest private military army in Russia, and Putin doesn't like these private military armies anymore. So, Kadyrov, is he dead or alive? When I was in Kiev, I started seeing reports of Kadyrov being incredibly sick and needing kidney transplants, and before I even went, I remember reporting that he was forcefully sent to drug treatment because he has an opioid addiction. So Putin sent his FSB goons to take him to Moscow and kind of lock him up to sober him up because he was running around with his boxers or underwear in Chechnya, in the capital, and it looked really bad. And since, you know, opiates are really tough for the kidneys, I would not be surprised if he has a kidney failure. And his face is always swollen also. Now, we don't know much because Kadyrov's Telegram is posting cryptic messages and cryptic videos of him being totally fine, and he looks completely different in every one of these videos. One day he's like 2 years younger, another video he's like, oh, I'm fine, he's like 2 years older. And now they published this video of Kadyrov being next to his uncle on his deathbed. They never show Kadyrov up close, but this is supposed to show us that Kadyrov is fine, don't worry, these are rumors. Now what I personally think is, yes, Kadyrov is in treatment, he is sick. I'm not sure that he is dying. I don't think Putin will poison him. But I think all the health issues that he has are because of his own doing, because he's a heavy drug addict, and whoever you want to blame for it, because for the poisoning, it's drugs that poison you. So Chechnya right now is led by a recovering drug addict with kidney failure. Not looking good. And I'll keep you posted on this when new information comes. Right now it's all rumors. Nobody knows. My friends, a new war has broken out close to Europe. There's this Russo-Ukrainian war, the biggest war Europe has ever seen since World War II. And now another war broke out. It's not clickbait, I'm not kidding you. Armenia and Azerbaijan. By the time I'm making this video, a ceasefire is already agreed upon. But when I was in Kiev, 3 to 4 days, there were hostilities going on, and there are about 200 killed right now and 400 wounded. And it was a full-scale Azerbaijan invasion to the separate region of Nagorno-Karabakh. Let's quickly go over the conflict so you can be up to date with what's going on. because it's very directly connected to Ukrainian war, because Russia in this area was supposed to be the guarantee of peace. If they cannot guarantee the peace, their power in the area is diminishing. Simple as that. This is Azerbaijan, this is Armenia, Russia, Georgia, Turkey, Iran, which area are we talking about here? This is Nagorno-Karabakh, a disputed area ever since almost forever, the last 100 years. Now Nagorno-Karabakh, as you can see, is a separatist region of Armenia. It has a lot of Armenian population, and an armed separatist groups of Armenia are in this region, much like Donbass and Lugansk in Ukraine. Azerbaijan doesn't like it because they see it as their area. It's internationally recognized as part of Armenia. But as you can see, this Nagorno-Karabakh is connected to Armenia only through the Lachin corridor. The last war they had here was in 2020, when Azerbaijan took back huge chunks of this Nagorno-Karabakh from Armenia. And why were they so effective in 2020 with their war against Armenia was because of Turkey, right here. Turkey started to support Azerbaijan with their new Bayraktars. Yes, Armenia doesn't have anything against it, and I remember in 2020 reacting to videos of our Azerbaijani Bayraktars just annihilating Armenian positions in Nagorno-Karabakh, taking back huge areas. Then a ceasefire was brokered by Russian forces. Russia sent their peacekeepers into the area, guaranteeing the peace as the regional superpower. As long as Russia is present, there will be no war, because there are green men with weapons from Russia preventing the war. There are still green men with weapons from Russia preventing the war. But now Azerbaijan, seeing how weak Russia is in Ukraine, doesn't really think much of them, and they started massing their troops on the border of Nagorno-Karabakh about a week ago. Many videos about it. And about 3 days ago they launched a full-scale, what they call an anti-terror operation in Nagorno-Karabakh against the Armenian separatist forces and armed groups. The goal was to fully take back Nagorno-Karabakh. Now, Azerbaijani forces, as of now, are much more stronger than the Armenian forces, and they have the Bayraktars, they have the Turkish support. Armenia is supposed to have the Russian support, and Armenia is in CSTO, or Collective Security Treaty Organization, which is a Russian-led NATO copycat. Now, CSTO also has an article that says that if one member is attacked, we will react and destroy. We will react and fight back the enemy and help them. Russia is unable to do nothing. A CSTO member is attacked. Russia, as the leading country, cannot defend them. This sends a very strong signal to the Russian CSTO that it doesn't work. Russia cannot defend anybody. They cannot defend themselves and the Moscow airports from the Ukrainians. This shows a huge weakening of Russian power projection into the area and into also Central Asian countries like Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and countries like that. So this war is a direct outcome of the Ukrainian war and the weakening of Russia, in Russia and outside of Russia. Connected to this, what happened in Armenia is that the Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said that they will not take any military action and they will de-escalate the conflict by signing a ceasefire with Azerbaijan. Now, how did the people react to this? The people of Armenia. Let's watch a video. This footage is from Yerevan. Armenian people are on the street, and here we can see how they feel about what Russia has done to them, not guaranteed their peace, how they feel about Putin. I'll read the subtitles. Organizations that Putin was creating in order to enslave and colonize the freedom-loving peoples of the post-Soviet space. Lavrov, suka. Lavrov, suka. Suka means, you know what it means. It's kurva, it's a bad word. Lavrov is the foreign minister of Russia. Putin huilo, Putin huilo. Well, I hear the same things in Ukraine. These people, Armenian people, they have had enough with Russia, supposedly their biggest ally, which obviously and directly betrayed them, did not guarantee their peace. CSTO, the Russian copycat of NATO, did not work and is a failed organization. Armenia is being pushed closer to NATO, closer to the United States. My friends, when I was in Kiev, my friend Brandon Mitchell came from Kherson, especially for one day to Kiev, so we could connect, and he's helping Ukrainian territorial forces units. These are units that don't really know how to market themselves, so they don't get Western aid, and he is giving it to them. Thermal vision scopes for their weapons. This is what he asked me to do to help him fundraise. So I'm gonna watch what we did together and share it with you so you know what's up. Brandon's link is in the description below. This all happened in the base of the 3rd Assault Brigade in Kiev. We're here in Kiev right now and there's a 3rd Brigade event going on. And I'm sorry, this is a horse. Keep in mind, it's Not an FSB spy, we made sure.
3rd Brigade, everybody knows them, they're well publicized. Here is Brandon, Michel and Polina, a medic saving lives, and they are here to actually publicize a unit which doesn't get that much attention. Territorial defense, they don't have much, and Brandon is here to give them thermal vision devices and training. What do we have here, Brandon?
Thanks for having me again, Artur. It's been about...
Also, I made a podcast with Brandon about 6 months ago. It's in the description below, or Artur Rehi podcast channel on YouTube. You see a full podcast when Brandon was telling his story, how he drove with Mitsubishi Pajero over a Russian mine. People got killed. It's bad. It's bad.
3 months.
Yeah.
This is a TS-35 AGM Rattler. They're American-produced thermal scopes. Now, anyone who doesn't know thermal, they work in many options, but if you ever watch the movie Predator, with all the multicolor like the rainbow, that's how it works, and it works at night. Now, I brought just 3 different ones. I currently have 20. This is a 19mm thermal. So, the 19mm lens, they offer different resolution options as well. This is going to be suitable for, to give you an idea, your AK-74, okay? The most common weapon in the world, in our weapon, an AR platform. Right?
AK-74, right? Do you have any comments about this weapon? An AK-74. It's not an AK-74, and Brandon told me later why he always says that it's an AK-74. Let me know in the comments if you understand which weapon it is.
5.56, a small caliber round. You can detect heat signature with these, and you can engage various targets. A good shot could kill in the dark up to 300 meters. A very good shot with this.
I gotta explain here, maybe civilians from some parts of the world watch these Hollywood movies.
I'm gonna go over, because we have a lot of text here, a lot of specifics that maybe I didn't even understand. Brandon knows so much about this. 3 different thermal sights for 3 different calibers, because the smallest millimeter thermal sights you can shoot with AK-74, for example, 47. A Browning, for example, which also can use a thermal sight on the position at night. They need a bigger thermal sight because the kickback can destroy the electronics inside.
Vibration, then the kickback with the first shot. This is what, 2K, 3K, 1.5, right?
Not the cheapest prices. We actually have a deal with MSS Defense in the Netherlands. They don't really supply. I buy as a civilian, like I'm not buying on behalf of the army. They only generally provide government contracts. This is probably about 200 euros cheaper than you could buy it even in America, like in Texas. But also we have Svetlana, who works for them, who's from Irpin originally. She is like our customer service agent.
These thermal devices are expensive, and I know it personally because you donated for the Night Vision campaign, and I was mind blown when I saw how expensive this stuff was. The generic United States Marine has equipment of $100,000 on him personally, and there are tens of thousands of Marines. Now, this night vision for them is regular, you just get it. But for Ukrainian troops, for Estonian troops, for me personally, it's expensive. These devices are high-tech, expensive, they're very heavily controlled at the customs. It was a pain to get them over the border, so what Brandon is doing is quite risky actually. He does it personally, doesn't get support from any army, any government, it's through his personal everything. So he is putting his life and his security and his face on the line to give these devices to the Ukrainian territorial forces. But this is a good quote.
If you would entertain me, Arthur, if you just finish General Patton, George S. Patton said, "No son of a bitch ever won a war by dying for his country." He was making other son of a bitches die for theirs.
Yes.
I'm in a medical battalion, but I do this as an individual, how I fundraise, and this is what I focus on. Thermal vision and night vision. Night vision for moving, thermals for you know what.
It's making up, my friends.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brandon. Slava Ukraini.
Heroim Slava.
Slava Ukraini.
I had a great time with Brandon. He actually took us out there with me and Seem and Jasper, 3 guys, and he put us into his medical trucks. There was no seats, no seat belts. We drove around in Kiev. We couldn't breathe in the back. He took us to Mustafir, Crimean Tatar food. It was really good. He ordered so much food, the table almost collapsed. I've never eaten so much in my life, and we spent like 8 hours talking, listening to his stories. Amazing guy. My friends, now my favorite part of the video, butchering the Patreon names. When I was in Kiev, I couldn't make YouTube videos and it saddened me to see, you know, the monetary funds go down. But luckily there are Patreons who keep me secure so I can actually go to Kiev and do what I enjoy the most, helping the armed forces of Ukraine. So thank you to these people who give this personal security to me. Levix, Alvin D. Dickens, Volja Amp Thunder, Lanke Viese, Tarki Pierke. Thank you to these 5 people. If you like my channel, become a tier 10 or above patron and I'll be butchering your name with my Estonian pronunciation. Also, my friends, go and check out my Instagram because everything I did in Ukraine was up there on my Instagram in the stories and it's still up there and in the photos also. I want to share all of the trip, which I can. There are some parts which are secret, but most of it I could share and it's all up on my Instagram. So I'll see you there. Until my next video, my friends, stay cool and bye-bye.